I built Atreus Impulsive Son and Kratos Stoic Father my way. I don't claim to know how to be a great deck builder or the most optimized, but I do know how to have fun, so let's talk about it. So this is my deck. You know what they say, like father, like son, like gods, like experience counters. This is my gods/experience counter list for Atreus Impulsive Son and Kratos Stoic Father. Atreus is a legendary 2/4 for 3 mana, 1 blue and a red, God Archer, with reach and 3. Tap, draw a card for each experience counter you have, then discard a card. Atreus deals 2 damage to each opponent. And his dear old dad over here, Kratos, is a 4 mana, 2 red white, God Warrior, 4/4. And whenever you attack with one or more gods, and whenever a god dies, you get an experience counter. At the beginning of your end step, you put a number of +1/+1 counters on target creature equal to the number of experience counters you have. These two together, it's like a match made in heaven. They're practically screaming to be like a proliferate deck, but that's not what we're doing. We are God, tribal, or kindred, whatever you want to call it. We're a god deck. So before we get into the gods, the creature section, let's talk about our one battle we have here. We have the Invasion of Theros for 2 and a white. You get a battle siege with 4 points on it. When Invasion of Theros enters the battlefield, search your library for an aura, god, or demigod card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. We have a ton of gods in the deck. It's going to go perfect. You can search out any number of them. And then on the back, it's Afara, Ever Sheltering, a legendary enchantment creature, god, 4/4. It has lifelink and indestructible as long as you have at least 3 other enchantments. And whenever another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. I like both sides of this card. It kind of fits perfectly with what we're doing. So, now that that's out of the way, let's move on to the creature. Okay, onto the creature section, and let's just talk about it because it's outlined in red. Yes, we are playing Aang Airbending Master. It's outlined in red because Avatar's not out yet, but I totally plan to put this guy in here because it's cool. He is a legendary creature, human avatar ally for 5 mana, 4 and a white. He's a 4/4, and when he enters, you airbend another target creature, and whenever one or more creatures you control leave the battlefield without dying, you get an experience counter. And at the beginning of your upkeep, create a 1/1 ally creature token for each experience counter you have. Now this is important because the experience counters you have, it doesn't matter if it comes from Aang or Kratos or any other source. Experience counters are experience counters. So if you generate 10 experience counters, that's crazy, but 10 experience counters with Kratos and then play Aang, you still have the 10 experience. Aang's going to see the 10 experience counters. So it fits perfectly here, and I love it so much. I'm super excited for Avatar. Next, we have Alrun, God of the Cosmos. It's just a god. It gets big, equal to cards in your hand. It's a little bit of card draw, a little bit of advantage. Again, it's a god. It gets us experience counters. And on the back, he's this bird that we don't really care about. We're not playing that side. We're playing him for the front side. And then we have Birgi, the god of storytelling. Birgi is just a good card. I don't know how much storming we're going to do in this deck, if any at all, but she is a god for 3 mana. That's a 3/3, so I mean, it's not a 3 mana, 3/3 relevant creature type isn't horrible. And then on the back, which we actually might use more than the front, is Harnfell, Horn of Bounty. So for 4 and a red, you get a legendary artifact. You can discard a card, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play those cards this turn. It's just a solid little like impulse draw effect where if you draw a land and you don't need a land, you just discard the land and get 2 more hits, hopefully. So I like that card a lot. Then we have Cosima, God of the Voyage. This is a legendary god 2/4. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may exile Cosima. If you do, it gains whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control. If Cosima is exiled, you may put a Voyage counter on it. If you don't, return Cosima to the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it and draw X cards where X is the number of Voyage counters on it. Whew. This is just solid little card advantage. It's a 3 mana 2/4. It's a god. It gets us experience counters. Hopefully it gives us a little bit of value when it comes out. On the back, she's a boat. She's a boat. The Omen Keel. I actually quite like the backside of her quite a lot. It's whenever a vehicle you control deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles that many cards from the top of their library. You may play lands from among those cards as long as they remain exiled, and it accrues for 1. So if you're really struggling with lands, and you need some lands, and you have this thing, I mean, it could get you other people's lands, which is pretty cool. Not very many vehicle synergies in the deck, but it's there. And then next up, we have Freya, Queen of the Valkyries. This is a secret layer drop skin for Iroas, God of Victory. It is a 4 mana, 2 red, white, 7/4 god with indestructible. And it has the god text, which I'm going to refer to a lot as the god text in this video. I'm going to read it this one time. It says, as long as your devotion to red and white is less than 7, Freya isn't a creature. That's the god text. Creatures you control have menace and prevent all damage that would be dealt to attacking creatures you control. This is perfect. Not only does it come in the same secret lair drop as our commanders, but I mean, giving everything we have menace and preventing damage to it means like free attacks. So, and that's what we want because Kratos wants us to attack. So this is like a home run in the deck for sure. Next up, we have God Eternal Kefnet. This is a 4-mana 4/5 with flying. It's a zombie god, which is pretty cool. He says you may reveal the first card you draw each turn as you draw it. When you reveal an instant or sorcery card this way, copy that card and you may cast the copy. That copy costs 2 less to cast. And then when he dies or is put in exile from the battlefield, you may put it into its owner's library 3rd from the top. That's what all the God Eternals do. Kefnet, I don't think, we'll do a little spoiler, we only have a little gaggle of instants and sorceries, so his effect might not trigger that much, but he is a 4/5 flyer that gets us experience counters, and having evasion for our attackers is like pretty important. Next up, we have an old favorite of mine, God Eternal Oketra. This is 3 white, 5 mana for a 3/6 zombie god with double strike. And he says, whenever you cast a creature spell, create a 4/4 black zombie warrior creature token with vigilance. And when God Eternal Oketra dies or is put in exile, you may put it into your library of 3rd from the top. I love this card. I have a mono white deck that is built with this as the commander. So of course this is going in the deck. Whenever we cast creature spells when this guy's out, which we have 30 of, as you can see right here, we're going to make additional zombies just for like free. So, I mean, he fits in the deck perfectly. I love Oketra so much. And then we have Hazoret the Godseeker, a little Aether Drift special here. This is a 2-mana 5/3 legendary god. She has Indestructible and Haste, and Start Your Engines, which I'm not going to go over because it's a weird mechanic. But you can pay 1 and tap her, and target creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. And then Hazoret can't attack or block unless you have max speed. You will get max speed. This one is just nice because it's 2 mana to come down, and it's indestructible once it can attack. So it's like a free attacker. Indestructible attackers are very, very important here because of our strategy not being, we're not proliferating or anything. So we got to attack to get those counters primarily. So this is going to fit right in there. Next up, we have Heliod, God of the Sun, 3 and a white for a legendary god. He's a 5/6 with indestructible, and he has the god text for devotion to white. He says other creatures you control have vigilance, which is also very good for attacking. And then for 4 mana, 2 and a 2 white, we could put a 2/1 white cleric enchantment creature token onto the battlefield. His activated ability there, it's just there. I mean, if you truly had nothing else to do, yeah, you could make a 2/1. But he's really there because he's an indestructible 5/6 that can get us experience counters. And then the other Heliod here, the better one, for 3 mana, 2 and a white, you get a 5/5 legendary god. He also has Indestructible and the god text, Devotion to white. And then he says, whenever you gain life, you put a 1/1 counter on target creature or enchantment you control. And for 2 mana, 1 and a white, another target creature gains lifelink until end of turn. I like this one much more because it's cheaper. It's still an indestructible attacker, and his activated ability is much more relevant because if you just put lifelink on something, you're going to trigger his own effect. And there's a little bit of +1/+1 counter stuff going on here with like Kratos, so happy to have Heliod here. And then we have a pig boy. This is Ilharg, the Raise Boar for 3 red, 5 mana. You get a 6/6 boar god with trample. Trample, very, very good for attacking. Whenever Ilharg, the Raise Boar, attacks, you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. Return that creature to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. And then he has the text where if he would die or be put in exile, you put it into your library instead. So this is just going to come down and be a 6/6 trampler that's going to give us experience counters. And when it attacks, we can just put any number of creatures like we've been talking about. Like I said, we have 30 of them onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking, just for free. And then, most of the time when they come down, a lot of them are indestructible or they'll have menace or something. And then we'll just put it back in our hand. So it's kind of just a little bit of free damage there. And then another weird one that's not out yet, we have Katara, Waterbending Master. This is a legendary human warrior ally, 1/3. Says whenever you cast a spell during an opponent's turn, you get an experience counter. We probably won't be doing that much, but we are going to generate experience counters in other ways. And then whenever Katara attacks, you may draw a card for each experience counter you have. If you do, you discard a card. This could draw anywhere from 1 card to a nutty amount of cards. It depends on how the game's going for you, but it's only 2 mana to come down. And there are ways like to give it counters or to give it, a menace or whatever to get it in easier on attack. So I think this is just going to work perfectly here. And honestly, if it's a Jeskai card that says anything about experience counters that's like relevant, I'm probably going to put it in the deck. So Katara is here for sure. Okay, moving on down, we have Kratos, the God of Storms. This is a slam dunk here. It's a 5 mana indestructible 6/5 that has the god text about devotion to red and blue. And you can reveal the first card you draw on each of your turns. So whenever you reveal a land card this way, you draw a card. And whenever you reveal a non-land card this way, he lightning bolts a creature or player, which is sweet. Because if you draw a land when you didn't want one, this guy just says, hey, you know what? Try again. Let's get you another card. So I love that here. Then we have Kratos, God of War, another new God of War Secret Lair commander. In the other drop, for 3 red mana, you get a legendary creature, 2/3, with double strike. And then he says, all creatures have haste, so even your opponent's creatures. At the beginning of each player's end step, he deals damage equal to that player, equal to the number of creatures that player controls that did not attack this turn. So this is just going to force combat for people to not have blockers, right? And if they don't have blockers, it's a lot easier to get in. And honestly, people should swing more in games of Commander, and nobody likes a stalemate where nobody can swing. So Kratos is just going to make everybody swing, so that's really cool. And even if his effect wasn't that great, he is a god, and it's Kratos in a Kratos deck. I mean, he's going in either way. Up next, I have 3 cards here. These are all of the Ogier Godland creature guys. I don't know what to call them. The Ogiers. We have the red one, the blue one, and the white one. I'm just going to go over them very quickly. They are all gods, and they all do a thing on their front side when they're a creature, and then when they die, you return it to the battlefield as a land. And each land can do a thing to get flipped back over into the god. So even if they die, you still get a land out of it. The red one, he amplifies damage. He's a 4/4 with trample. If a red source you control would deal an amount of non-combat damage less than his power to something, then he deals damage equal to his power instead. So if you're gonna do 1 instead, he's a 4/4 right now. You're gonna do 4. So he's cool. The blue one, at most, this is probably just a 4/3 with flying that gets us an experience counter. He says whenever you cast an instant spell from your hand, it gains rebound. We do have some instants, but who knows if that will ever trigger. And then obviously he does the thing where he has a land on the back. His thing is about time counters, and that's how you get him back. Oh, the red land, which I didn't talk about, sorry. You can transform it if a red source you control dealt 4 or more non-combat damage this turn. That one is probably the easiest one for us to flip over because our commander, Atreus, can do some damage to people. He only does 2, but there's probably a way to do more, or, lightning bolts or whatever. He's probably the easiest one to get flipped back over. And then we have the white one. This is a 6/6 with vigilance. And he says if 1 or more creature tokens would be created under your control, 3 times that many are created instead. So he triples your token output, which is kind of cool. There's a little bit of token stuff in the deck. We're going to talk about one in a second. And then we have like Aang and Oketra. So this one actually could be relevant on its front side. And then, of course, it's a land on the back. And you can transform it only if you attack with 3 or more creatures this turn and only as a sorcery. That one's also not hard to flip over, but sometimes you're just only getting in the attacks where you can get them. You know what I mean? But you could also flip this one somewhat easily. So we have all 3 of those guys because they're cool and their lands on the back, so that's never a bad thing to have more mana. A lot of these gods can, be pricey mana value-wise, so I'm going to try these ones out. There's not a lot of gods to pick from. They seemed like pretty good. And then we have Othari, Sun's Glory. I really like this one. This is a 5 mana, 3 red, white, legendary creature Phoenix, 3/3, flying, lifelink, haste. And when it attacks, right? Yeah, when it attacks, you get an experience counter. Then create a 2/2 rebel creature token that's tapped and attacking for each experience counter you have. And then for 4 mana, you can tap an untapped rebel you control and return him from the graveyard to the battlefield. It's pretty good. It's like it does the Phoenix thing where it comes, rises from the ashes or whatever. I like this card a lot because he can pump out a lot of guys in this deck specifically. I just kind of really like the whole caring about experience counters thing, so I'm really happy to have this one. All right, let's talk about more gods with Perfy P here. Perforos the Bronze Blooded. For 4 and a red, you get a legendary god 7/6 with indestructible and the god text about devotion to red. He says other creatures you control have haste, which is not bad. And then for 2 and a red, you may put a red creature card or an artifact creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. This is somewhat relevant. I mean, we have red creature cards for sure. I don't think we have any artifact creature cards. We have some. So he can sometimes cheat things into play, but for being a 7/6 indestructible attacker that's giving our stuff haste, I think is good enough, even if we're not super going to use the activated ability. And then we have the other Perforos here, God of the Forge. For 4 mana, 3 and a red, you get a legendary god, indestructible 6/5. Has the devotion text about red. And then whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Perforos deals 2 damage to each opponent. And then for 3 mana, you can give your guys +1/+0 until end of turn. This one actually synergizes a bit more than the first Perforos here, or the new Perforos as I should call him, because we have things that make tokens, like we just talked about Othari and the Ozurtok and Aang, you know what I mean? So there's a little bit of synergy here for that ETB trigger to go off quite a few times. And if you're set up in such a way, it could go off like a ton, and it's a lot of damage real quick. So I love Perforos here. Next up, we have Redain, God of the Worthy. 2 and a white, you get a 2/3 legendary god with flying and vigilance, so it's a great attacker for experience counters, which is the main reason why it's here. It also says, snow lands your opponent's control enter the battlefield tapped. Got 'em. Non-creature spells your opponents cast with converted mana cost 4 or greater cost 2 more to cast. And then there's a backside, which is this weird shield. For 4 mana, you get a legendary artifact. I'm not even going to read it because it doesn't really matter. We're playing it for the front side because it's a great god attacker. And we're hating on Snowlands, baby. Up next, we have Roaming Throne. This is a god, mind you. It doesn't say it on there. But for 4 mana, you get a 4/4 with Ward 2. When it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Roaming Throne is the chosen type in addition to its other types. So it will be a god as long as you name god when you cast it or it enters. And then it also says if a triggered ability of another creature you control of the chosen type triggers, it triggers an additional time. So any god triggers will trigger again. This card, it's insane, right? In any typal, tribal, kindred, whatever you want to call it deck, Roaming Throne is insane. It's insane here too. Up next we have Surtur, Fiery Jotun. For 5 mana, 3 red, you get a 5/5 with Trample. And whenever you cast a historic spell, he deals 3 damage to any target. So whenever you cast a legendary, a saga, anything like that, artifacts, he just lightning bolts things, and it's Surtur. So he's cool. He's a good attacker with trample, and he lightning bolts things whenever you play most of your deck. So he's got a home here as well. Up next, we have both Thassa's in Deep Dwelling and God of the Sea. I like God of the Sea a lot more than Deep Dwelling. Deep Dwelling is about like blinking things. She can also tap creatures, but she's an indestructible 6/5 if you're online with her. So I mean, that's not the worst. This Thassa, God of the Sea, is much better. For 3 mana, you get a 5/5 indestructible god. And then she has the god text for Devotion to Blue. And then it says at the beginning of your upkeep, scry 1. So it's just a little bit of card selection there. And then for 2 mana, 1 in a blue, target creature you control can't be blocked this turn. That is awesome for getting in with gods. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Include Thassa, God of the Sea. And then we have the Capitoline Triad. I don't know how to say that. For this is a 10 mana, 7/7. That says, those who came before. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each historic card in your graveyard. We have lots of those. Exile any number of historic cards from your graveyard with total mana value 30 or greater. You get an emblem with creatures you control have base power and toughness 9/9. I don't know how often we're going to be able to do that in this deck to get the emblem, but I mean, it sure will cost less at some point in the game, for sure, right? And if you end up paying 5 mana for a 7/7, I mean, it's not bad, right? It's a god. It has a home here. One that I am very excited about, though, is the Locust God. This is a 4 blue red, so 6 mana, 4/4 legendary god with flying, so he's a good attacker on his own. And then he says, whenever you draw a card, you make a 1/1 blue and red insect creature token with flying and haste. So there's a little bit of more token synergy here. And then for 4 mana, you can draw a card, then discard a card. And then when he dies, you can return it to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. So he's always coming back unless he's getting exiled. This card is a house. It's good in any deck where it fits, and it fits here almost perfectly. Up next, we have the Warring Triad. This is a 3 mana legendary artifact creature god, 5/5, with flying, trample, and haste. And as long as there are fewer than 8 cards in your graveyard, it's not a creature. Then it says tap, mill a card, target player adds 1 mana of any color. So this is a any color mana rock for 3 mana that can also be a god and attack pretty well. It's a no-brainer. This has got to be in here for sure. Next up, we have Ultima, Origin of Oblivion. This is a legendary god 4/4 for 5 mana. It has flying, which makes it a great attacker. And whenever Ultima attacks, you put a blight counter on a target land. For as long as that land has a blight counter on it, it loses all land types and all abilities and has tap to add colorless. Whenever you tap a land for colorless, add an additional colorless. So this is pretty good for taking out annoying lands that your opponents might be playing, or if you just need to ramp and you have an extra plains laying around and you just want to turn it into a colorless land, so you get a little bit of extra mana out of it. That's fine too. But this card on its own, without the abilities, is a great attacker to get experience counters. So it makes it into the deck for sure. Then next up we have Venat, Heart of the Hydaelyn. You'll have to excuse me. I didn't play Final Fantasy. This is a 3-mana 3/3 Elder Wizard. Just wait, we'll get there. And it says whenever you cast a legendary spell, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. A little bit of extra card draw. Couldn't hurt. We're kind of hurting for it in this deck a little bit with the restriction we put on it, so this one fits pretty well. And then for 7 and tap, exile target non-land permanent, and you transform her. She makes it into the deck because on the back, she's a god. She's a 4/4 indestructible god, which is great for attacking. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you put a 1/1 counter on another target creature you control. Until your next turn, it gains indestructible. If that creature is legendary, you draw a card. So on the back, she's even better. She makes our creatures bigger, gives them indestructible, and draws cards. On the front, she just draws cards pretty much. This card is, I think it's cool. I pulled it out of a Final Fantasy pack, so it was just like fresh in my mind. So I thought, why not? Let's put it in the deck. Okay, we've talked about the gods in our gods deck. Let's talk about the sorceries and the instants. There's only 5 sorceries and 8 instants here. First up, I have Anger of the Gods. First of all, it says gods on it, so I put it in the deck. This is like a small board wipe. It deals 3 damage to each creature and exiles things that would die this way. We have Battle of Olympus. This is World at War. It's 3 red for a sorcery that gives you extra combats, and it has rebound, so you're going to get to cast it again. Extra combats is like a thing that was really talked about when these commanders were revealed, because it's like a pretty viable strategy you could do with this deck, is just load it with the extra combat stuffs. I only put 1 in here, and it's only because I just plan on getting this secret lair anyway, and it's very flavorful. It's got Kratos and Zeus like throwing hands on it, and it's really, really cool. Next, we have Blasphemous Act. I think if you're playing red, you play Blasphemous Act, unless you're playing EDH or something. It's just, it's one of the best board wipes that we have, honestly. And then Jessica's Will as one of our game changers. We only have 3. This is one of them. I think this deck probably struggles with card draw and mana. So this kind of solves both of those things in one awesome card. Again, if you don't want to include the game changers, feel free to just cut them and play whatever you want to play. And then we have Wrath of God. Of course, it's a god deck. We're playing Wrath of God, right? We need it. For the instance, we have Achroma's Will. This is just a way to finish out the game. We're attacking a lot. We're going to have some big boys on the battlefield. And the game's got to end, so this is a way to get in there and get the game over with. Chaos Warp, just a solid removal spell. I like it a lot, even though it's like not the best to normally give your opponent like another thing in place of the thing you're getting rid of. But the situations that you run into where you flip the same thing that was removed are so funny, and they stay in my brain whenever they happen, as rare as they are. So I always play Chaos Warp whenever I can. Experimental Augury. This is just like a solid little common that I remember from Edge of Eternities. It's 2 mana. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put one of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order, and then Proliferate. Proliferate is very, very good in this deck, and if that's how you want to build it, go ahead, load it with Proliferate. It's a good way to go with this this strategy. I just didn't, but this card again was fresh in my mind because Edge of Eternities like just happened, and I remember seeing this card and thinking it was pretty good for a 2 mana common. So we got that one in here. Flawless Maneuver, the free white guardian, whatever, fierce guardianship, right? If you control a commander, you may cast the spell without paying its mana cost. Creatures you control get indestructible until end of turn. This is just going to help you with like board wipes, of course, or if you just need to get in an attack and all of a sudden the attack's not favorable, you can cast this and save your guys. Path to Exile and Swords to Plowshares. While we're on that, I mean, if I'm playing white, I'm playing these cards. They're always in my white decks. Ripples of Potential. I like this card a lot. This is 2 mana, instant. I believe this came out of one of the commander decks for Ixalan, Lost Caverns. This is 2 mana. Proliferate, and then choose any number of permanents you control that had a counter put on them this way. Those permanents phase out. So not only is this going to proliferate, which you want to do anyway, this is going to save some things that you're putting counters on because of, let's go back to it really quick, Kratos. Don't forget at your end step, you can put 1/1 counters on things. So you're going to have stuff that has just 1 counter on it or 2 counters on it, and then somebody tries to, I don't know, farewell you. I mean, you can cast this in response and save your important pieces, so it's a pretty good card. I like it a lot. Stroke of Midnight is just a better generous gift, in my opinion. It's the same card, except for instead of a 3/3, they get a 1/1. The human creature token is maybe more relevant than the elephant, I guess, but it's just, whichever one you want to play. And we already talked about swords. Okay, and then we have 12 artifacts in the deck. We're just going to go over them really quick because they're mostly just mana. I'll just highlight the important ones. Starting with Altar of the Pantheon, I want to highlight. This is just a mana artifact, but for 3 mana, you get an artifact that taps for 1 mana of any color. And your devotion to each color and each combination of colors is increased by 1. So this automatically brings your devotion for everything up by 1. And then if you tap it for mana and you control a god, you're going to gain a life, which is neither here nor there, but it taps for any color and it ups your devotion. It's like this is the perfect home for it. Then we have Arcane Signet, obviously. Brotherhood Regalia is a sleeper card from Assassin's Creed. I love this card. This is a 2-mana equipment. Equipped creature has Ward 2 and is an assassin in addition to its other types and can't be blocked. Very good for our deck. And it equips to a legendary creature for 1, also very good for our deck. Otherwise, it equips for 3. This gets guys in there and helps protect them a little bit. This card is a sleeper. It's rising in price, like slowly, I think. So if you don't have a copy of this, like go get one. It's a very, very good card. Felwar Stone, of course. Lightning Greaves, of course. A Soul Ring, of course. Swiftfoot Boots. Nothing crazy here. And then we have the Talismans of Conviction, Creativity, and of Progress. And then a Thought Vessel to round out our little mana artifacts. And then the Ozolith here. This card's insane. This it's already $45 now. Wow, I remember when it was 20. For the Ozolith is a 1-mana legendary artifact. Whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put those counters onto the Ozolith. And then at the beginning of combat on your turn, if the Ozolith has counters on it, you may move all counters from the Ozolith onto target creature. This just stores your counters. So whenever your guys die, you put their counters on the Ozolith, and then when you go to combat, you take those counters, you put it on something else. It's a great card. It's about $45 right now. It's going up. If you don't have one, you're missing out a little bit in your +1/+1 counter deck, I'll tell you what. Okay, and then enchantments. We only have 5, and as you can see, 2 more game changers here. So they are Smothering Tithe and Rhystic Steady. Obviously very powerful enchantments. They need no introduction, no explanation. Like I said, this deck, I think, is just going to struggle with mana and card draw, and that's what these are. And they're some of the most powerful ways to do so. If you, again, don't want to play in bracket 3, you don't have to. Take these out of your deck, put in something else. You can run no game changers. You can run more game changers. That's completely up to you. This is just where I wanted to put the power level of the deck, where it fits in my regular play group the most. You know what I mean? And then we have Aggravated Assault. For 2 and a red, enchantment, 3 red, untap all creatures you control. After this main phase, there's an additional combat phase, followed by an additional main phase, only as a sorcery. So this is extra combats that sit on your battlefield, and you can activate it, many turns. It's not a sorcery, it's not a one-time thing, you can just do it throughout the course of the game. And like we talked about, extra combats are just pretty good with Kratos. So of course I had to put an Aggravated Assault in here. And then we have Mimir's Ancient Wisdom. I like this art better. I'm buying the Secret Lair anyway, and I like this card, but I'm not crazy that we just got a double-sided card instead of getting another something else, you know what I mean? But I'm buying the Secret Lair anyway, so this is going in here. This is Teferi's Aegis Insight for 2 blue. Get a legendary enchantment. If you would draw a card, except for the first one you draw in each of your draw steps, you draw 2 cards instead. So every time you would go to draw, except for when you draw for turn, you're going to get 2 instead of 1. It's great enchantment if you can. It's kind of like a 4-mana do nothing, but if you can make it work, you could make it work. I'm playing it here because it is God of War themed, and I love that this side of it is just Mimir's head on Kratos' butt. I love that quite a bit. And then a card I discovered, excuse me, when I was researching this deck is Prof's Eidetic Memory. I hope I said that right. This is from Karlov Manor. So for 2 mana, you get a legendary enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you draw a card, so it replaces itself, which is cool. It gives you no maximum hand size, which is fine. And then it says, at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you've drawn more than 1 card this turn, put X +1/+1 counters on target creature you control, where X is the number of cards you've drawn this turn, -1. If you remember, Atreus here can draw us, potentially a bunch of cards, right? So we have a way to reliably trigger this enchantment here. And I found it, and I thought it was pretty cool, maybe a hidden gem from Karlov Manor that I for sure didn't know about it. So I'm going to give it a try in this deck. I think it sounds like a lot of fun. And then really quick, I'll just touch on the lands here. Play whatever lands you have. Play whatever lands you want. You want to run a bunch of basics? Run a bunch of basics. This is just what I put in here for the time being. I'm just going to highlight something I think is important. What is important here? Always put a command tower. Yeah, that's important. Reliquary tower could be important because of Atreus' ability. He could put 7 cards in your hand at one point if you're having a good game, you know what I mean? So I think having a reliquary tower doesn't hurt for sure. We're only in 3 colors. It's like not a big deal. And then Rogue's Passage. You want to get creatures in there and deal some damage. You want to get attack triggers. Rogue's Passage is a great way to do it. It's people don't usually interact with lands, so sometimes when this comes down, it's just like it's bad news for your opponents and it's great news for you. So that's my deck for Atreus and Kratos here. I love God of War. I love the Secret Lair. I'm so happy to pick it up. Like father, like son. I'm also interested of getting like altars of me and my son in these cards. If any altarists or artists are out there and want to do that for me, I'm super into that. I think this deck is a lot of fun. I think the way I built it, right, because this is built my way, is also can be a lot of fun, and you know, kind of like a chill end of the night deck where you're gonna slam gods and look to attack, and that's, you know, that's it. So if you enjoyed watching this, please subscribe. Check out my Instagram or my TikTok. It's all under the same name as CutterTapMTG. And I hope to see you guys very soon. I plan on doing more of these, so please stay tuned. Thanks for watching.